Critical damage taken to the fields, Commander. I repeat, critical damage taken to the fields. Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, I am going to practice speaking at a more reasonable rate, and we are going to take a look at Transformers: The Energon Universe, Book 1. There will be a short, spoiler-free section where I go over the book in general, then I will get into the fully spoilery section. First things first, art style. This is not my favorite art style. I prefer something a bit more polished, less rough. However, this art style is not any one of the kinds of comics art styles that I detest, i.e. it's in no way, shape, or form grotesque. So, I know I will grow accustomed to it easily enough. My own personal aesthetic preference aside, this rough and gritty art style fits the story, no question. This is a rough and tumble story about bad things happening and how everyday people live with the bad things that happen. The story, so far in Book 1, has hit that sweet spot of not shying away from the terrible things that happen in real life, but not dwelling on them either. There are monsters in this book, but there are heroes fighting them as well. And the story, it's about the heroes, not the monsters. There is family dysfunction, but there are families that love each other. The dysfunction is the flavoring. The love is the meat of the story. The characters feel spot on, with one glaring exception of a moment, and a little bit of being generous, with allowing for over 40 years of cultural drift from when the series was originally published. That is, every character is recognizable and acts reasonably given the situations. There is one element that I deeply miss, but I understand. This generation IRL has dealt with earthquakes, but it has now been over 2 generations since we last had a major volcanic eruption on the continent. The world building is well done, establishing the backstory for the Autobots and Decepticons in swift, decisive scenes. The major changes, I detest changes, make perfect sense within the world. The writing and acting worked swiftly to bond you to these characters. There are 3 powerful moments in the first book alone where I had my breath taken away by strong emotion, and that is a good feels to plot ratio for any comic. Do I recommend this book? Yes, go buy it. Then come back and watch the video. There are some rather gruesome human deaths shown off screen, comic book typical violence as they say, so do watch the age range, but I give this book 2 thumbs up and as close to 5 stars as I honestly can. Now, I am going to jump right into the spoilers. So, to give you a chance to click away, I'm going to pause and tell you to go check out the links below my video to get yourself a copy of Flying Sparks. Aliens land on Earth and interact with humans. But these ones are made of living crystal, not gears. Now, you have been warned. On to the spoilers. The first page sets the scene of our story. The sun is setting on the time when the distinctive whoomp, 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 whoomp of the Huey helicopter dominated the skies of Earth. Beloved humans die. Optimus Prime lies still and cold, locked in stasis. The planet stirs with a thirst for adventure, shaking off the war, the death, as the rising sun lights a rocket reaching for the stars, no matter the cost in human lives. There is just so much beautiful storytelling going on in that first page. You are being dumped down a tunnel of backstory like Alice going down the rabbit hole. Look, says the artist, this will be important, but not central to the story. The sun is setting on the era of skies full of Hueys and the militaristic action that implies. See? See the orange? Look. The sun is rising on the space age, the dawn of exploration. Look at all the blues. And look, feel your humanity stir, because whether the world is at war or peace, whether man slays man or holds hands and reaches for the stars, the trials and tribulations of life go on. The little things that make life real. A son dies in his father's arms. The patterns that link us back to our earliest ancestor and forward to the last human march on regardless of the things that humans consider important. But something new is coming. Look, giants, monsters stir under the mountains once more. No longer the 100-headed titans of past ages, but the mechanical monsters of the future. This is a wonderful first page, offering important information to the newcomer so that the next generation is not hopelessly perplexed, while acknowledging the history of the franchise with a nod. That first page is both fan service and exposition. You know these people by the end of these pages, but even if you don't, well, you got the idea from what was shown. And what the first page does in broad brushstrokes for the overall story, establishing the world at large, the second page does with minute detail for our main human characters. Spike and Sparkplug Witwicky, a couple of redneck blue-collar boys, father and son. They love each other, but Sparkplug has taken his share of emotional damage over the years. We can see it. He survived the previous area, but the whoomp, whoomp, whoomp of the Huey still haunts him. He's lost much. Spike is a child trying to take on too much responsibility, trying to take care of his father. They have support from their community, the people around them, detailed in the smoke-stained wood paneling and battered bar of a VFW hall. I swear I can smell that cigarette smoke and french fry grease, mothballs and Lysol. I can hear the muted sounds of the TV playing in the background. Then the story starts in earnest, and we get our first major character change. Carly. She's different this time. In G1, she was something almost as much from out of Spike's world as the Autobots were. She was a full-grown university graduate student to Spike's blue-collar practicality. She had only started hanging out with Spike because he was the Autobots' friend, and she wanted to hang out with them. Now, in this iteration, she's an artist who has known Spike from childhood and is about his same age. She still comes from a different world from him, from a slightly more affluent class that tends towards art and creativity. Her dreams, though, they're there for the taking. She gets gifts from loving and supportive family members to pave the way. All she needs to do is knuckle down and apply the hard work to hone her skill. Meanwhile, Spike's dreams might never materialize, however hard he fights for them. He just doesn't have that same support that she does. It is an interesting dynamic, making them part of the same world, because the hippie artist and the blue-collar worker are far more of the same culture than the wealthy university graduate and the blue-collar worker are. I don't like the change in of itself, I never do, but I do think I like this new dynamic. Now, we come to the next major change, and the first really major spoiler. Either Skyfire was never trapped in the ice on Earth, or he got out on his own. For anyone who doesn't know the main universe, Skyfire, that giant white and red flying robot, was originally trapped in glacier ice and only found and revived after the Autobots and Decepticons had been up and about for a few years, and they rescued him. Here, he is the driving force that frees the Autobots and Decepticons from their rocky prisons in Mount St. Hilary, if this is Mount St. Hilary, which kind of makes sense. When G1 debuted, the eruption of Mount St. Helens was still fresh in everybody's mind. The stories of the man who died because he wouldn't leave his cats, the memory of the ash that just blanketed the Pacific Northwest and wrapped entirely around the world, was still fresh in the mind of the target audience. Now, it's been 2 entire human generations since that happened in real life. And while far fewer of the living population even remember the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980, let alone had it shape their view of the world, everyone in North America is attuned to the danger of even minor earthquakes. So, again, this change makes sense. Then there's the overall timeline, which is a bigger issue. Quickly established a massive change and revealed in one quick, natural bit of dialogue. One Cybertronian who was not on the Ark sees another who had been trapped on the Ark. His faceplate spread in delighted joy, and he says, "My friend, I have not seen you in centuries." Centuries. The Ark has only been buried in the rock of Mount St. Hilary for, at the most, if we're being very, very generous, a few thousand years. Which timed the crash and eruption around the time that Mount Mazama erupted in southern Oregon, not Mount St. Helens in northern Washington, but side note. for not 4 million years. That's the main point here. Just centuries. And given the context, the war on Cybertron was brewing but had not fully broken out as active war by the time that character had left Cybertron. So that dramatically changes the timeline of the war, of the Autobots landing on Earth. Not that that would change much of the story, but it is interesting. Then we get the Cybertronians' personalities established with rapid brutality. Starscream passionately and with seeming sincerity, while pointing at Jazz of all Autobots, declares that the Autobot symbol to be the mark of pure evil. This is after he's just shot a helpless enemy in the face and is about to do the same to the next. Soundwave cares for his cassettes. He cares deeply, and the small panel we see this revealed in was one of the few moments of breathtaking emotion for me. This panel has dialogue, but it really doesn't need it. I do not know how the artist so perfectly balanced the fact that Soundwave looks cold and emotionless and very mechanical, but in that moment looks terrified and spark broken. But there it is. We see not only the true spark of Optimus Prime in the panel where he, with agonized tenderness, cradles Bumblebee to his chest, but we also see the ties back to that first introduction page where Sparkplug was doing almost the same thing, therefore establishing the fatherly aspect of Optimus Prime on full display. And when you get to the author's notes at the end of the book and find out not only that an Optimus Prime toy was the creator's first interaction with Transformers, but that toy was a precious gift from his grandfather? Yeah, that tracks. Then we watched a named human, deeply emotionally connected to the main characters, die brutally. And we watch a named Cybertronian also die brutally. And with that, this comic has firmly grounded you for what you're going to expect to come. I wonder if this is going to be like Transformers Prime, where it's just they one-off murder somebody and then very few characters die going forward, but we will see. I finished this book. There's a couple more things I want to get into about the art style and whether it's a stylistic choice on the artist's part or an actual nod to the physics of giant robots on Earth. But this is already getting to be too long, so it took so much self-control to stop and do this video before I read the next chapter. The next book. I have not felt this much eagerness for the next part of the story in a long time. But here you go. I liked it. I recommend it. I am now going off to read book number 2. Here's hoping the series will keep up the quality of the writing and stick the landing. If you would like me to keep up the quality of my writing, hit that like and subscribe button, leave a comment below the video, tell me what you think of the Transformers Energon universe, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
Drake McCarty's leg was shattered, deep in the wilderness. As the flash flood closed over him, something alien pulled him from the waters. A military base that shouldn't exist. An ancient warrior with secrets of his own. Drake returns to his family with a whole leg and the burden of a secret he doesn't understand. In the forest around them, someone is watching, and something followed him home. Flying Sparks. 90,000 words of science fantasy adventure. The first novel in the Dying Embers universe is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and from the author as a signed copy. Get your copy now and step into a world where dragons walk the forest, aliens lurk on the mountain, and things go boomp in the night.
Escape into another world with the writings of author Betty Adams. 2 worlds, one of utter absurdity, one of dramatic tension, both alike in aliens absolutely astounded by human behavior. Humans are weird, short, absurd science fiction stories. Flying sparks, dragons, aliens, and things that go boomp in the night.
Books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and at authorBettyAdams.com for a signed copy.